This is your boy AIK Cross 84, and this is my last minute review of The Evil Within. The Evil Within, made by the master of horror video games Shin Mikami, made on the ID Tech 5 engine. Just to let you know, a game engine pretty much handles the reality of your game world. In this case, the ID Tech 5 not only handles the physics, the collision, which is when characters bump up against each other or bump up against inanimate objects. The architecture, it also handles the textures itself, and the modeling as well. So everything nowadays is being done completely in your game engine as far as game modeling and also game texturing. All those sort of things can be done with the engine, and this kind of helped the ID Tech 5 as far as degrading graphics when you're porting something on different systems. I know a couple of us have seen a few other games that are ports for last gen and next gen systems. We're more used to getting ports for different systems, but the last gen systems seem to be just holding on the life. But a lot of times you see a huge depreciation in graphics and a huge depreciation in animation. However, Shin Mikami is a very big fan of motion capture, which is mocap, which they use for a lot of live action films and that sort of thing. For those who don't know what mocap is, it's a usual generalized term used for motion capture, where a virtual skeleton is used with the help of an actor to make more realistic animations for a 3D game or 3D movie. Essentially, it's those people in those dot suits you see. Those dots form the skeleton, and you place that skeleton within your 3D model, and your 3D model moves as the actor moves. So pretty much you just have to worry about the outer, and then those guys handle the whole thing with the mocap, with all the animations and stuff. But when you have mocap in the game, those animations don't depreciate. Excuse me. When you're having games on new systems and old systems, and you're porting games from PSP and all these other things, I think a lot of us will notice that the animations look more fluid, but the textures don't exactly look better. Alright, so let's get into The Evil Within, made by Tango Gameworks, published by Bethesda. The Evil Within, high tension, high horror. This is a very hard game. Is the simple fact that kind of when they throw you in these situations, like one Sebastian is in right now, this was one of the literal puzzles that I was thrown into in the very later chapters. But the puzzles that they give you, what lends to the difficulty of the game the most, the puzzles that they give you, they don't give you any sort of explanation to what they want you to do. They show you something, and then they throw you into a place and they're like, okay, get it done. You know what I'm saying? So there's no kind of hand-holding with it. There's no kind of tutorial. After a while, I do believe you will sort of get this kind of cue to look in the direction of something that you need, but they really don't have any way of saying that this is the one thing you need. It's sort of just like, pay attention to that object that's shining, dude. Figure out what it does. So a lot of times in this game I found myself really having to use actual problem-solving skills to actually solve the puzzles in this video game, and that's actually something that we should see a lot more from video games, because it's very healthy for your brain. It's very healthy for those of us who are a little bit up in age and we're playing video games and that sort of thing. It really helps not only with hand-eye coordination, but forcing us to problem solve will help us go out and of course problem solve in real life. So kudos to Shin Mikami for being like, hey, you know, we're going to put a problem in front of you and have you solve it. I definitely walked away from this game after I beat it with a lot less stress in my daily life, just because this game was so hard. I really felt like I triumphed over something maybe mentally that has just left me stress-free after beating this game. But the tension levels that they build, they don't... in a lot of games, you have these brief, like, little reprieves that are much longer than brief. In this one, the word brief is underused because it is very brief. You have these few seconds to kind of figure out things, to kind of get along with things, and they're usually building tension in those seconds. Maybe a quick movie scene like this one, but a lot of these scenes are in-game, so you're not really being pulled out of the game seconds after they happen, milliseconds after they happen. these things are going to start coming after you. These things are going to, so you really need to like not only think about what you're doing, you need to really manage your time very well, because there's a lot of enemies in this game that don't exactly die. You are in a horror movie situation here, so there's a good number of enemies in this game that aren't going to go down because you shoot them with bullets, and they want you to shoot at them. They expect you to shoot at them, and that's where managing your inventory and managing your ammo comes in. Is what do I shoot and what do I not shoot? If I do shoot something, what do I shoot it with that it's weak against? If you don't take all these things in consideration, they are the difference between having 4 bullets to take on those 4 haunted, or having absolutely nothing to take on those 10. So I found myself in a lot of situations where I tried to Bruce Willis it, and I really didn't think about it, with no ammo, and pretty much SOL. But if you kind of use your brain in this game, even with not a bullet in your gun, you can find a way to solve your issue, and that's one of the things I really love about this game. They let you think, and they actually just let the game react to that. As far as the actual gameplay goes, you're gonna find a very quick comparison to The Last of Us, as well as many of the old Resident Evil games. You're also going to somewhat see a return to the kind of hardness that those tank mechanics brought. But it's something that's done with very good game mechanics, and just done with camera angles and that sort of thing, the sort of thing that movies themselves use. But one of the things that I really didn't like about using those camera angles were the simple fact that to peek around corners, and as you see me looking around at stuff and peeking around corners, I have to turn the camera, and the camera, which is centered on your main character, this becomes an issue when you're trying to manage yourself in larger situations, and I think this was something that was done on purpose. But still, at the same time, it would have been nice to see a little effort put behind the animations and stuff when it came to you trying to peek around something or that sort of thing, or a way to lift the camera even ever so slightly. Would have actually been pretty nice, and it would have helped me kind of connect a little bit more with Sebastian, who was very stoic, the most stoic of stoic heroes. If you're looking for a stoic hero, the buck stops at Sebastian Castello. But the gameplay, the combat in the game was very, very tight. It was something that was very streamlined, very easy to catch on to, especially if you play the other Resident Evil games, or if you played any third-person shooter. There's not really a cover-to-cover kind of thing in here. You don't really see that kind of thing with the ID Tech engine, although he does react to things as he moves past them. He will brush his hand over them and that sort of thing. But with a lot of horror games, we've been seeing that disconnect, because it can make things a little bit too easy. So it's good to see that disconnect, and good to see a kind of return of you need to point and shoot. And if you don't point and shoot, you're not going to hit it. And this time they kind of didn't do it with just bad mechanics. They did it with very good mechanics, which is where the level up system comes in, because that very closely ties into your accuracy, how well you shoot with the weapon, how fast you reload a weapon, and all these things you see an immediate difference with your character from. I have to say though that one of the things I kind of didn't like again about the game was the plot itself. Its pacing is a little off, but they do kind of have this Shutter Island kind of like, oh, what a twist kind of thing. One thing I do have to warn you about though, and this is a warning, aside from all the other warnings, is that this game has a lot of gore in it. It's very gory, and I left this one little scene with who I call the Blood Lady in the game. I think she goes by some other name, but I just call her the Blood Lady because she bounces out of blood, and it looks like she's drinking the blood when she smashes your face. But this game does not skip on gore. Definitely do not play it in front of your kids. But if you're a fully grown adult and you're ready to get down with some horror movie madness, I think you'll definitely enjoy Shin Mikami and Tango Gameworks' The Evil Within. Thanks guys, that's all the time I got, and I think I've given you enough information to make your own decision about The Evil Within. I'm gonna get back to gaming. I'll see you on the PlayStation Network.